on. So welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome those of you who are here in person. We have a lovely crowd today. It's not every day that we have the honor of having our guest speaker in person. So it's a really very special pleasure today. I'd also like to welcome those of you who are joining us online. We have a lot of new members, a lot of new recruits. A couple of my faithful members have been out actively working. They should be on some kind of commission. I wish I could pay you in some way, but I pay you in love for going out and spreading the word about our group. So thank you for that. I think that's one of the reasons that we have so many wonderful people here today. But before I get going and I introduce our guest of honor, just a couple of quick things. Those of you who are here, those of you who are online as well, if you wouldn't mind silencing your phones, that would be great. And then I just want to point something out. We do like to protect people's privacy because the speaker has given us permission to record her presentation. We will eventually be putting it on our YouTube channel. But that means that if you want to ask a question, and we really want you to ask questions because that's a real value proposition for actually having the speaker here in real time, etc. You can do it in a couple of ways. If you really don't care and your face is on screen or your voice is heard, you can, if you're online, you can just go ahead and lift your hand. Raise your hand, and we will come to you at the end. Somebody's raising their hand. Thank you. Raise your hand and then we will come to you. But of course, just keep in mind that if that's the case and your camera is open, you will be seen and heard, and that will eventually go out into the ether. So you will be forever associated with this presentation. If you're not comfortable with that, you can instead write a question in the chat. This is for people online. Write a little question in the chat and we will get to you in good time. Those of you who are here, there are little pads scattered about. If you'd like to ask a question, you can write it out. Please print, get very much to the point. You can pass it to me. I will ask our speaker. Or if you'd rather, you can actually come to the microphone and you can ask your question in real time out loud. But again, your voice will be recorded. But please keep in mind that, questions are absolutely invaluable at this time. All right. So without further ado, then, it is my great pleasure to introduce to everybody Rebecca Kastl. Rebecca, I met and first heard of back in 2023 at the IONS conference. And she is wonderful. I know you've worked a lot with Father Nathan Kastl.
I did go on his podcast.
Yes, who is another one of the speakers that we've had in the past. He does phenomenal work. And so Rebecca is not an experiencer per se. She didn't die to come through and tell us about the experience that she's about to explain. But she did have a very transformative, very deep, very meaningful, spiritually transformative experience. And that's what she's going to be sharing with us today. And I don't want to take time away from her. She's going to tell us her story from beginning to end. So let's turn it over to you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. If you could give her a nice little yes, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Hi, I'm going to be talking here and here. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I'm Rebecca Kastl. I am the accidental mystic. That's what I call myself. I had a 2-year-long near-death-like spiritually transformative experience in my 20s that clicked all the boxes of an NDE, but I never died. I'm going to tell you all about it. Let me share my slides with y'all. Angie reminded me before I started that I said, this isn't just about me. This is a story about a spiritual awakening that's universal for all of us. I think this is a really universal story. I'm going to tell you my whole life and my spiritual awakening that happened. Thanks y'all for your patience. So I was born in New Orleans. I came from an interfaith family. Let's see. That was also very scientific. So my dad is a doctor, an MD with a PhD in biochemistry, and my mom was a psychologist. And so I was raised really in a skeptical kind of way. And I'm really thankful for that because I asked a lot of questions. And when I had my spiritual experience, I spent a long time deconstructing and accepting and spending time making sense of it, which is half of what I talk about, how I decided it was real. And I did come from an interfaith family. I was raised Reformed Jewish, but I found out at the end of high school that my mom came from 200 years of Methodist ministers. They're in books for being one of them. My great-great-great-grandfather was killed for preaching against slavery during the Civil War, and he's in a book about it. So this is a very big legacy that I didn't know about. I also had a stepdad who was indigenous in my 20s who helped me a lot. He came from a medicine tradition. So all of this is part of my family, and all of these cultures are cultures that I deeply love, and every culture. um, my sister and I, this is us when we were kids. I had a really good childhood, great school, good life, nice parents. And this was us being happy. But then when I was 13, I had a trauma that was really terrible. I was sexually assaulted. I woke up on the laundry room floor with four boys over me. I'm sorry, trigger warning, but it was a really intense trauma. Um, I didn't know why I was there. Eventually, someone broke it up, and I basically spent the next year and a half in a spiral of depression, PTSD, traumatic memories. And that's basically how I felt in my soul. And that's me in college. Um, I did go to Smith College. I was an amazing student, but I became very bifurcated because I had to basically make it through all of these awful things. But no one knew I'd gone through it except like healers who were really psychic, which I could never fool. But so basically, I eventually, I was making it. I was making it. I made straight A's. Like everyone thought I was great, but on the inside, I was having these nightmares and this trauma. And I eventually went to therapy, like a lot of therapy. This is some slides of therapy I did inpatient for survivors of sexual assault, sexual trauma for 3 weeks during the summer of college while everyone was off traveling. I did that after my junior year of college. I did basic therapy. I just did all the therapy, and eventually they said you're fine. Like I was functional, I was everything was fine in the world. And because I was really like, I was functional, I was making good grades, like I was again like what you would be. I remember just thinking, I don't think I'm fine. Like I know I look okay, but something still felt wrong inside. And I just felt like something was on top of my heart. And that's when I really said, I want to heal all the way, even though I've been like, okay, according to therapy. I'm going to skip to this. Oops. Okay. It gets really, really wild in a minute. But so basically, this was me like, I'm going to heal all the way. At 23, I started like doing a bunch of yoga to come back to my body because I'd been so disembodied. I think now a lot of trauma healing therapy, traditional therapy includes body somatic awareness, but then this was like the early 2000s. That wasn't like necessarily part of it that I remember that I did. And I also started doing energy healing, and like I was so skeptical, but I met someone who I just felt like I really wanted to work with, and I was just like, this is so fake. Like I don't know why you could tell me these things about. But every time I went to her, like I felt like I had released so much because as much as I'd done like mental healing, I hadn't done energetic. Like I had still carried this energy of trauma in me. So I was doing these different things that were really healing me. At 25, I was like, I've healed all the way. This is so great. I really thought I was healed all the way. So from 23 to 25, I just focused on healing. I always had a job. No one really knew I was doing all this. Part of what I was doing during this time was I started writing my journal to Dear God. I would write my journal to God. And this, is just the universal God, my background. I would write like, Dear God, I'm in school. Dear God, I have a boyfriend. And it was just me opening my heart to something eternal. And this is what started my spiritual experience. At 25 in the summer, I moved to New York for graduate school. I went to teachers college at Columbia University. And it was in January of 2006, during my first year there, that I just devoted my life to God in my journal. And this is what I wrote. I just out of the blue, I was like writing. I have a whole page, but I'd cut the rest of the page out because I was like, I'm in school. I live in Brooklyn. And I was like, I just wrote this thing and I was crying. I've decided to give my life to you and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and to bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. And it just really came out of nowhere. I wasn't planning to ever write that. That's why I call myself the accidental mystic. But this was January 19th, 2006. And then for the next 2 years, I had an array of spiritual experiences that I didn't really believe was possible. And I spent a long time deciding I wasn't crazy. And I'm going to tell you all of them. So that night, I wrote that entry, and then I was going to bed in Brooklyn, and I saw a light come over my bed, and it just looked like a white light. It came from one end of the room to right over me. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, go away, I'm scared, go away. Because I could tell it was singing to my heart. And I wasn't ready, even though I'd done all this therapy, all this healing. It was like, this is too intense. Like it was seeing past even my surface self that I still have had. And as I told it to go away, I started to feel tingling come through my head, and it started spreading through my head, and it was going like stronger and stronger. And I was like, what a weird headache. Like this just feels like love and peace, but it's like a headache. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was like, should I wake him up and see if he's having this really weird headache? And it just got stronger and stronger. And then I relaxed into the feeling, and I felt a voice come into my head that said, you don't have to be afraid, but if you are, you can wear a hat. And it put a graduation hat into my mind's eye. And I said right back to the voice, I was like, that's not a cute hat. Here's three other hats you could choose. And I just like flashed like three hats that were cuter than this hat. And then the voice stopped. So if you guys get a download, just don't talk back to it. Cause like, I think it could have gone on a little longer. They were like, she's not ready for whatever. Okay, I just went to bed. Like I was like I don't know what that was. I woke up the next morning, I'm going to class, and I see light coming out of everyone I pass, like beautiful white ethereal light, like everyone's an angel. I had no idea people were so beautiful. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like how did I never notice that everyone's an angel and everyone's so beautiful? And that was like actual white light. I see the light in everyone, but it's more like a heart sense now. But for those couple first days, it was like just a white halo around every person. And I was like, I do joke, and this was true. It made it really hard to date. Because eventually I was single, and I was like, why is everyone so beautiful? Um, okay. I also that week, so the first couple weeks of this experience, all this stuff happened right away. I started having psychic dreams, and I came from a family where we analyzed our dreams like Freudian style. They're all about you. Then I started having dreams that were coming true. They were giving me guidance, and I'd never had anything like that. And so, over the years, like these have persisted. This is one of the ways that I decided my experience was true, because I started having psychic dreams that week, and they still have happened. Like I've had a dream about a car accident like a week before I have it. I mean, I found out that this isn't as rare. I think a lot of people have at least one dream like this or more maybe, but and like, in the dream world, I see the car accident. I'm just watching the cars over here. I'm totally calm. It's so like, oh, okay. And then it happens in real life, and I cry, I freak out. It's terrible, but the car's in the same place. And so that's been really interesting. I get guidance in my dreams. And at the end of this presentation, I'll tell you some of the dreams, I've had some dreams about the world and like, so questions I've asked. So this was around the time I decided I was really losing it. This was 2 weeks in, and I was like, I'm going nuts. Something really weird is happening. First, I called my friend. I don't have a slide for this, but I called my Reiki teacher, and I was like, hey, like something weird's going on. I'm seeing things. I'm seeing light. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, what did you do? What happened? What are you doing differently? And I was like, I'm not doing anything differently. I'm just in school. And I was like, oh, I did devote my life to God in my journal the other day. Like when I was writing my journal, I just hadn't pieced it together. Like it just came out of nowhere. And so she laughed. She said, obviously, that's why this is all happening too. So I have these two people really helped me the most. One was my stepdad. That's my stepdad. He came from an indigenous medicine tradition. My mom remarried him in my early 20s. And he has started having dreams about me during my experience. So he had dreams that I was like in the sweat lodge with him, like glowing with spirit, and telling him I knew how to go heal people now. He had a dream I was becoming an angel of God on the earth. And this was like, I wasn't telling anyone about this experience. I didn't even know what was happening to me, but he knew, and he understood it. And he was a major support for me. I was not ready for it at the time because I didn't understand it. And I spent a long time denying it, but he wrote me a whole little book about how to help people, how to walk what he called the red road. So he was very, very, very helpful. He's on the other side now, and a big part of my life on the other side. And then this other person is a shaman I found on Google. I Googled shaman New York because I was like, I should go talk to someone about this. Like, I don't know if I can talk to a psychologist. Should I talk to a priest or a rabbi? But I just thought maybe this person would understand. And I Googled that and I found him and I made an appointment and I had a dream about him before I met him. This was one of my psychic dreams I had where I dreamt his entire office. I dreamt exactly what it looked like. And then I fell into his arms and he caught me. And that was exactly, his office looked the same as in real life. And he really helped me. I remember sitting down and saying, like, and we had our first appointment and I was like sitting at this table with him and I said, I devoted my life to God. I think I'm schizophrenic. I saw a light. Do I have to drop out of grad school? Because he was like, I think I'm gonna have to drop out of grad school. Something crazy. Anyway, he said, it's okay. We're all schizophrenic. The whole world is a dream. And like that reframed a lot of it for me. And I was able to just kind of, he said I would finish school and I did. He said I would be a teacher. And I was like, I'm not in grad school to be a teacher, but here I am 20 years later teaching about this. And he's actually, I saw him a few months ago. He was a big support for me, but it was a lot. It was a lot, but I needed somebody. So I had these two people. They helped me. They were people that were used to seeing the other side. My stepdad was raised in a culture like this. So it helped me feel like I wasn't just losing it. So a bunch of other spiritual things happened to me while I was just in graduate school. I was really keeping this from everyone I knew, basically. But I was also feeling these angels around me that felt like light angels. They felt like loving presences next to me for these 2 years. But most of the time, like they were back there and then they would step forward. Like if I was going to make a decision, I remember I was going to sign up to study abroad and I felt these two really tall angels on either side of me, basically just wordlessly telling me not to do that. And I didn't do it and I listened. Um, and so I've seen little angels. Most of the time I just feel them, but that's how I do the work I do now is I tune into that frequency and share. I mean, we all have this guidance. I got really awakened to it really fast. And the other thing the shaman told me is that when the physical world doesn't take care of you, the spiritual world does. And so he's just like, you were just so traumatized, like you were basically awakened to the other side this whole time. And so I just felt it. And I truly believe we all have that. Um, have any questions you want to bring up before I keep going? No, I'll keep going. So I had a mini life review. This is like, I felt, a lot of my experience makes a lot of sense with near death experiences, even though I didn't die. But I did have like a spontaneous life review where I felt my sister's feelings. I'd hurt her feelings, and I didn't realize I'd done anything. And then I talked with her on the phone, and I felt everything I'd made her feel, and I had no idea. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know I was hurting people. I didn't know I could do this. And then I just was like, I never want to do that again. I never want to make anybody feel this bad. And it wasn't even a small thing that I'd done. Just didn't plan her bachelorette party correctly. That was really all it was, but I could feel how much it had upset her. I didn't know how to plan a bachelorette party, but I also felt like how much it means to be kind to people and how important that is. So that's something that's really stayed with me is just kindness and like seeing that light and sharing kindness with other people. Um, So one thing I do talk about is these nightmares I started having after my trauma. Everyone has different perspectives on what these nightmares are. I would totally discuss this forever, but I was having these what I call demons, and I was 0% raised to believe in demons. I now believe it was my trauma personified, but I do like the shaman would believe these were actual spirits, like other. I really think like I was just seeing my trauma, but I would have these sleep paralysis nightmares where these shadowy things would circle me and I would just be terrified of them. And I've met so many people since I get embarrassed to tell this part because it's like I know what it sounds like. I come from a scientific family, but I would just be like, oh, so scared. And a lot of people have them, but I was so I would never. From 13 to 26, like even with all the healing, I was never able to get rid of those nightmares until just last night during my spiritual experience. It was probably about the summer 2006, but I was awakened in the middle of the night. this shadowy thing was circling me, and I was sitting up outside my body. And I just said to it, like, you can't hurt me. God lives in me and works through me. And I just looked right at it. And I was like, when I was awakened this last time, I was like, why was I ever afraid? Like, I'm not afraid of these shadowy things. I don't know why I ever thought I had to be afraid. And I think it was like relying on something more than me. That was just, it just felt like, oh, I'm not afraid of you. I'm never afraid of you again. I never had another nightmare like that. And they were gone forever. Um, so that was really special. That was really great. But I just had that, and then I woke up the next morning. I went to class because like I was in grad school. I was like a straight A student, lab assistant, research assistant the entire time, and I was just trying to get through it. And I didn't think I'd ever talk about it. I'm like, oh gosh, my professors are like, what she do? Okay. So I also had these experiences of feeling one with nature during this. So it was basically everything got super heightened. Um, I remember a day there was an eclipse and I was feeling it in my body. Like I was feeling very wavy and um, like I could feel it. I was like, oh, that's what an eclipse feels like. I haven't felt that since. I also saw an aura flash around a tree right before it died. And like the neighbor, when I was home from in Louisiana for spring break, like they were trying to burn a tree to kill it. Um, and like the next morning, I was out looking out on the porch and I saw this green flash around the tree. And as soon as right after I saw it, there was a huge crack and it just fell over. It's like, I'm losing it. I don't know what's happening. Like when I see that. Another thing I don't always talk about, but since this is a supportive group, my stepdad taught me in meditation to be one with everything, where you honor the four directions and then you face the east and you sit and let your body become one with everything around you, and you just feel the edges of your, like you could do this anytime, you just relax. He said don't do it in the city because it's too crazy here, but I don't know, I haven't tried it, but I did that. And he said if you do this, the birds will come closer, nature will feel safe around you, and like you'll feel like, yeah, he just always said the birds would come closer and like the creatures would come closer if I did this. But I did this meditation while I was home on spring break, and then I went for a jog after. And this was during my spiritual experience, so I believe my energy was very heightened. And I went as I passed a field of cows because they lived in the country at the time, and I stopped to look at the cows, and like all like 20 or 30 cows just like looked right up at me, and it was really freaky. And I told my friend who's a doctor, he's like, you made that up. I'm like, I did not make that up. They all looked at me, and I started walking, and they all started walking, and then I stopped and they all stopped, and I did that like 3 times. And I came back home and I was like, I told my stepdad, I was like, this happened with the cows. Like, I don't know. And he was like, oh, that's so great. Like, they were just welcoming you. And he just laughed. So I loved that meditation. You can do it anytime. Just let yourself become one with, like, you just feel the edges of your body. You just become one with everything. I don't know. I don't know if I did. I actually got so freaked out by that experience that I didn't do that meditation again, like ever, but I'm going to start doing it again. um, okay. This was pretty much the kind of wildest part of my experience where I saw and lived an alternate timeline of my life. So this does happen in spiritual or near-death experiences, but I was during the 2 years, I was going to make a different choice. Like I was going to write about a different part of my life that was not this spiritual experience. And I was shown and lived, like it was almost like a movie theater where I lived my entire life if I did that. This other book it would get published to bad reviews. I would feel sad and dejected. I like even read the bad review, and I even like saw the house that was living in it, and it was like, and I just never recovered, and I had like a really sad life. So I was like really wild because I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to publish this other book. I'm just going to not do that. I was actually at a coffee shop and I just closed my computer and I went and got a pastry. But it was like when you're having these kind of spiritual experiences, it happens at such a deep, deep level that there's just no questioning that it was real. Like I had to listen. I couldn't do that. Like I could just feel how serious it was. It wasn't like bad. It wasn't like I felt like I couldn't do it. It was like if I did, it wasn't going to end well. So I saw another alternate timeline at the end of my experience, just small. It was almost like looking in the window of different lives. So if y'all have heard like Christian Sundberg or other people, they talk about these trees of probabilities, and every choice you make like goes another way. So it's pretty wild to think about. And I definitely experienced that. My biggest internal shifts were really the most important part of all of my experience, but it's not as kind of flashy. I knew that God loved me so much no matter what. I could feel other people's suffering, and this lasted after my experience. If I ever saw somebody that was hurt or crying, like I had to go help them. I couldn't see someone in pain. I shifted my life path to work with children. Like I was doing research. I got a big research grant, like off job offer at the end of my grad school, which coincided with my spiritual experience. And then I was like, I have to go. I moved back to rural Louisiana. I worked in high underserved communities and schools, and I work with immigrant population in the public schools now, part time. I also knew I had guidance at all times, so it was like I just knew God was with me. I knew God loved me. I knew I didn't have to worry about anything as long as I kept my heart plugged in to this creator feeling. Um, which was really easy to know during those 2 years. But once my spiritual experience ended, it is really hard to keep track, to like believe that. It's taken me years to reconnect with this, which I'll talk about. But it was so easy for those 2 years. It was just, so I really thought at the end of those that I didn't know it was ever going to end. I thought it would last the rest of my life. Or I was going to leave the planet, which I don't know why I thought that. Like, I was obviously not raised to believe in anything like the rapture, but I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I just thought I was going to be done and they'll be like, go to heaven. Okay, I'm done. I like did that cool thing. No, that didn't happen. I had this beautiful dream with this angel. I call him an angel now, but I was um, in my room in this dream. And this was at the end of about a year and a half, 2 years. I always know my experience because I lived in 4 different apartments during it. And I'm like, this was the apartment I was in when I had this dream. And it was more like a visitation dream. So a lot of what near-death experiencers talk about and spiritual experiencers is that it's realer than real. So this little last dream, I was talking in my room to this person who was really glowing. And I was like, I was saying, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. And this person was talking to me and saying, like, it's such a gift to be alive. Like you need to go have adventures, you need to go live a good life. Being alive is such a gift. It's such a gift to be here. And I was like, as he was talking, like all this light and love just started coming into me, like really, really beautifully. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna be the best boyfriend. And I was like, what's your name? What's your name? And when am I gonna meet you? Because like he was so real. That's why I also resonate with the near death community, because like all of it's so real. And he was like, my name is Jonathan. I don't know why his name is Jonathan. You'll meet me when you finish swimming. And the dream shifted from me talking to him in my room with all this light to me being on a big ship at night and lowered down into the ocean. And I had to start swimming out alone into the ocean. And it was just like, that was the dream. And I woke up the next morning and it was gone. Like all the light, all the angels, everything I'd felt, it was over, it was gone. And I was like, I didn't know if I made it up. I didn't know if I'd just gone completely nuts. Like, even though my stepdad and that shaman, it was like such an internal process. And I don't know if it seems like everyone here is pretty accepting of spirituality, but it was so deep. And I was like, I spent years trying to figure out what had happened to me, that I had to just do it on my own. Um, so that was a very long process. Oh, before I go into the integration process, this was me in college, but this was me during my spiritual experience where you can see this little orb. I found that picture recently and I was like, oh, see, it's like at least the littlest bit of proof. I have a few other journal entries, but I thought that made me really happy to find that. But you can see the difference between like me pre-therapy and healing and me like during the spiritual experience and how much love and peace I was feeling. I mean, it really healed me. That's what really, that's the whole point of my experience. It healed me so much. This was me in the woods. So after my experience ended, I finished at Columbia. I got a big job offer. And then I just moved into rural Louisiana and I ended up living in a cabin on 100 acres of woods. My parents, my mom and stepdad were very close nearby, but I, I just was like, part of me for a long time, I was looking for a portal. Like I thought I could find where all the light went. I didn't know why God would leave me here. I was crying alone a lot. Like, but I still would go do stuff. I still had a job. I still had friends. And then at home, I would just be like, where did all the light go? Why am I still here? Why would God abandon me here? I thought God hated me that this ended. And it just got like, it was really hard. And for a while, like about a year and a half, I lived in this cabin and I had a lot of psychic dreams. But it was almost like I was too removed. And then I moved to New Orleans and just said I was totally crazy. I made all of that up. I'm never thinking about it again. I don't care. My stepdad, I think that really put a rift in our relationship because he'd been so tuned into it. So I just like partied with my friends and then eventually after a long time, I started talking it out. So my experience ended in 2008. It was 2006 to 2008. And I finally started sharing about it in 2023. I had been told by my stepdad and by the shaman that I would be teaching and talking and that I'd be very popular, but I'd have to be strong. And I just didn't believe them. And if it was true, I didn't want to do that. But I kept getting pushed. Like I had to start talking about it. And so in 2023, Eva was there. I finally submitted to speak at IANS, and I never told this story except to like my stepdad, shaman. I told it to one boyfriend, um, I told one friend that I saw light over my bed. Anyway, but no one was ever calling me crazy about this. Like I told the right people, I guess. They were like, "That's great." But I finally submitted to speak at IANS in 2023 after really not sharing it publicly, and had a panic attack the night before. I was shaking the whole time, but I did it, and now I tell it. I tell it in little groups. I've gone back to IAN several times. I've had um yeah, I go on podcasts. Did I say that? But yeah, this was like the whole process was understanding I wasn't going to get to leave, which I thankfully, like again, the NDE community, we all have that feeling like I saw all this light. Where did it go? Like I love that I'm friends with another experiencer who said if she read all of the Course in Miracles and then laid down on the bed, God would come to get her after her near-death experience. So it's kind of this feeling like, okay, like if I do this, can I leave? But it's not like Earth is bad. It's just like that light, that level of light is so high. And I'm trying to bring it down through me. I never left the Earth. I saw all of that light on the planet, like here. And I've realized like to reconnect with it, it's like through the heart. It's not going to be like an external portal. Like I had my experience because I was trying to feel my heart and trying to heal. And then I opened up to God, the creator, divine light. So that is that's my main experience. And I have some dreams and downloads that have happened since. So one thing my stepdad taught me was to pray for guidance in dreams. But I skipped one slide. I'm going to go back to like right after my experience ended. So this was like summer 2008, right before I moved home to Louisiana. I was awakened in the middle of the night with like, has anyone had a download, like a spiritual download that's different than a dream? If you have, it's just like so much information in like 1 second where you feel everything. So I was awakened in the middle of the night with like this feeling of the entire globe and how sacred all of human life was and how beautiful we all were. And it was just like I could see the entire planet and like I could see people going to their jobs. I could see people going to the market, and it was like everywhere. And it was so much beauty and so much love. And then it was like this whatever what it was showing me that were all going towards the cliff. That was all. We were going towards the cliff, and I didn't see what was going to happen after the cliff. But I just think it's like we have, a choices to like keep being unkind or being kind and loving and like having better experience. That was pretty profound. I did have, okay, so I come from an interfaith family. I had a dream about Jesus. Some people like to hear about this, some people don't, but I'll tell y'all. This was a dream when I was, so like Dick Dingus loves when I tell this dream. Do y'all know him? He runs the Virginia Beach Giants group. He's a minister, but okay. So I was raised Jewish. I wasn't really raised to think about Jesus in a lot of ways. But in this dream, for some reason, I go to church and synagogue generally now, but I was walking up to Jesus on the throne, and and I was going to kiss his feet. Like I wasn't raised to think, I wasn't raised thinking about Jesus on the throne. I'm not trying to convert people. I still consider myself interfaith and I love every religion, but this was just an interesting dream. So he's sitting on a throne and I was like, oh, I should go kiss his feet. And then he grabbed my hand and pulled me up and sat me on the throne next to him. And I was in a throne and he had his hands like this and he was holding hands with people on either side of the throne going out for all of infinity. And like, or whatever, just like millions of people. And we were all in our own thrones. The love from his heart was going to everyone's heart forever. And it was really beautiful. So it just seemed like he wasn't power tripping. It was all about love. We were all sovereign spiritual beings. It was interesting. And actually, Dick Dingus said that that was from Revelation. Those who have overcome can sit with me on my throne, which I didn't know that. So I thought that was neat because I did overcome a lot. So, um, and then I did have a dream about religion because I prayed about religion. My stepdad taught me how to pray for dreams, for guidance. Like this was a thing he did. He did it for me. He said, I'll pray for you and I'll see what dream comes to me. And he was just so spiritually connected. So I had this dream that night where I was in a hallway and because I was like, what religion should I be? Like, I had this big experience of God and I have an interfaith family. I don't know what to be. And on one side of the hallway was a room with all my Christian friends, and they were having a prayer group, and they were being kind and loving, and worshiping in the way they worshipped and loving each other. And on the other side of the hall was a room with all my Jewish friends having Shabbat dinner, worshiping the way they worshipped, being kind and loving. And I was like in the hall, and so I woke up. I was like, okay. I just need to like be kind and loving. And I mean, I told that to a friend and she's like, oh, you're in the hallway. Like, I'll be in the hallway too. We'll just be in the hallway. So kind of in the hallway. And it did give me some comfort because it made it feel like I could just be kind and loving and care about God in the way that makes sense. So, because that, religion is a big question. I didn't want to tell my story because I was like, people really talk a lot. Like, God seems to be very controversial when all it did was heal me. I did have a couple more things I was going to share. This was I don't have a lot, like I have had a lot of psychic dreams about my life and about my friends, but global dreams are pretty rare. But this spring I had a dream that I thought was pretty profound about humanity. And I don't know why I had it. I wasn't even really praying for it. I had been making jokes on podcasts that I only have boring psychic dreams about my friends. That was my joke. Don't ask me anything big because I only have boring dreams about my friend, like his girlfriend. But I had this dream where I saw, again, the entire globe. So this night I was in the dream, I was shown that humanity is at a crosswalk. So there's like two curbs, and we've stepped off the curb into the crosswalk. And in each part of the crosswalk, I could see different global events. So in the unpainted space, I could look inside, it would become a hologram, and I could see like big global events and like the entire globe, like I could see everything on it and feel it. And these were like tragic, hard events. And then in the painted space, I could see the best way for us to make it through. And every painted space was us all holding hands across the globe, us all holding hands and helping each other, us all being kind to one another. And it was like I would see the entire globe and we're all just like holding hands over all the chaos because underneath us was the strife and the chaos. And I do think it's kind of like a light grid or whatever. We're all creating something very loving. But I saw three big world events. I remembered the first one because it was of economic changes, and I saw the stock market dropping, and then I saw it dropping again, and and then I saw two more world events. I remember in the dream, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, okay." I looked all around I was like, "Oh, okay, I see. Oh, but all we have to do is love each other." And when I woke up the next morning, I couldn't remember the global events. I think it was really like war and stuff, but I think I wasn't supposed to remember them because it just creates a lot of fear. But the point was that we're supposed to be loving and kind to one another across the planet. And at the end of the crosswalk, after I looked at all three of these things, there was like a big palace with rainbow light. And I in the dream, I entered the palace. I got filled with this rainbow light, this beautiful light. And then I came back to the crosswalk, and I was actually walking next to the crosswalk to help everyone across, which I guess is what I'm doing when I tell this story. But it was very beautiful. I thought the palace, I don't know where that came from. I was not on any hallucinogens. But I do think like when you hear about people talking about the solar flash or any of that kind of stuff, it does seem similar. Um, Okay, I added this slide in because Angie and I were talking. Um, this was something very healing that happened this past month. I had this trauma with four perpetrators, and I found out last summer, the friend whose house it happened at, I was only 13, but she called to make amends because she's in the 12-step program. And I found out that one of the perpetrators had died of a heroin overdose in 2015. He was the only person whose name I knew. I don't know the other people's names. And I had a mediumship session with my friend Julie Clough, who I will recommend to y'all. She is like new to mediumship. She's gone through a lot. She's also an angel reader. But while I was in the mediumship session, one of the perpetrators came through. And this is the kind of thing that while he was alive, like I would never have seen these people again, really. I just never saw them after 8th grade. But he came through saying, um, sorry is not enough. Sorry is not enough. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he explained like where the kind of family he came from, that women had been so objectified in his life and he was mistreated by his dad. And like, he just kept saying, so sorry, so sorry. And, the medium, my friend Julie is just crying. And I was just like a little defensive, but it was very, very healing for me to have that experience of him coming through and saying sorry in a way that, he would never would have done while he was alive. I don't think. I did the one question I had was like, were the other three healing? Because for a long time I thought, I'm doing all this healing. This has been like my whole purpose in life since this, like I'm healing. And he said, no, that's not their purpose. It's not to heal. So, oh well. But it was really healing for him to come through, having had a life review, having seen what the outcomes of his actions were. And that was just, Angie's working on can I say?
Yeah.
She's working on a research project involving people with trauma, and if their perpetrators are on the other side, whether it's a family member or not. It was so fascinating because I lead a monthly group, and this reading was at 3:00 of the day of my group. And my group is kind of small. It's like I had like 4 or 5 signups. And then I had this session with Julie. And as soon as we got off, I must have freed something in my energy or whatever, because like I just started getting booking. Like I got like 11 more bookings for that evening group, because I think I just released so much pain that I'd been kind of holding. I mean, you'd think I would have let it go, but healing never ends. So that was really profound and very powerful. And now I'm fulfilling my promise, which is the promise I made in my journal to live by the light and help other people live by the light. So I have a book that I just published this summer. I didn't bring copies, but y'all can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. It's called Daily Moments with the Angels, and it's 365 messages that I received from the same angels that came to me in my spiritual experience. And people who've had near-death experiences tell me that it reminds them of their experience. It takes them back to that place that is so hard to find on Earth, which means a lot. And I do sacred soul sessions with people around the whole planet, and I help them get back in touch with their soul through healing and basically bringing through all the stuff that happened to me. And I really firmly believe that everyone can heal. So when I work with someone, I just see them as that beautiful healed being and with all that light. And we work on bringing them messages. So I do like messages from their angels and guides and healing that needs to come through. And I'm just bringing them hopefully exactly what they need. And that's about it. Yeah, that's my whole story. It's a terrific story.
Okay, so I would like to invite everybody to,
Yes.
ask questions. Those of you who are here, there are some pads. If you'd like to ask some questions, those online. If you'd like to ask your question through the chat, that would be great. I think we have a couple of questions here. Let's see. 1 second. Okay, I think this is
Okay.
Thanks for sharing your experiences. Mine are remarkably similar, and I think of myself as an unintentional mystic. Long story. How have these experiences influenced your fundamental core identity, your deepest sense of who and what you are, or of your awareness of it? That's a question from Bob.
Okay, Bob, great question. I think, I do believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, as you would hear. I totally believe that. I believe that I do. When I first heard the shaman say the whole world is a dream, I thought he was totally nuts, but I totally believe that now. And I think we're creating our dreams. And I think we can create a better dream for our own lives and for everyone by being more loving. Um, but so, yeah, I do think that's such a beautiful question. I do believe that we're all at our core light, and I know everyone gets a lot of shade for saying love and light, but I do believe we're all made of love and light at our core, and that is what I really, and I see that, and that's what heals. So
Absolutely. So you didn't have a near-death experience, but you've basically had, I mean, the downloads, the experiences, the takeaways, the transformation is really as good as. I mean, you don't have to die.
You don't have to die. You
come back, right?
Just to be like to God, eternal.
But it sounds as though there was a very key moment there for you, which you beautifully shared in terms of what you had written. It sounds as though that one night back in January 2006, that where you actually wrote in your journal some very key words where you were very true of heart and very honest and wanting some genuine help in your life. And it seemed as though that sort of ask was what led, it was the sort of the catalyst, would you agree, that kind of led to that sort of cascade of extraordinary experiences. So would you say that, you know, one has to ask in order for all of this to sort of come through?
Yes, I would say that would make sense. I think you do have to ask. I think God was always right there. I just didn't know I could reach out. I didn't know that I could do that, and I just did it out of the blue. So I think you do have to ask. And I do think I had a friend say, like, oh, it wasn't that you said it, it's that they believed your God's spirit, like actually believed that you meant it, because they can see beyond like you.
Right.
My heart was in it. I was crying when I wrote that. Like, I think my soul made me do it. My personality did not understand what I'm saying.
So there's a genuineness of heart, a purity of heart has to come with it. You can't be kidding around.
Yeah.
They would know that.
Yeah. But it's also, that's how like the nightmares went away, is that I just trusted. Yeah. Trust that.
So I did want to ask you about that as well. Please, everybody, if you want to ask questions, again, there are pads around. So the fact that you had this horrible experience when you were 13, so sorry about that. And that obviously was very meaningful, very deep, very hurtful. And it took many years to try to understand and recover from it. It sounds as though you were carrying a lot of kind of the negativity of that sort of translated to a kind of a darkness that's like a dark cloud that followed you. And it's extraordinary that you were having these nightmares that we could rationalize. But it really sounds as though there were some sort of dark, shadowy figures. It's almost as though otherworldly entities were kind of coming in.
Oh, right? I mean, I think it's whatever you want. Part of me thinks if you have trauma and like this much pain and anger and you don't own it, it becomes disembodied and almost personalized. So it could be dark entities. I've
in the past, I've been kind of doing this kind of work for a while now and doing a lot of reading and just listening to podcasts and what have you. I have heard, and please chime in if you are aware of this, the incubus, you know, this idea of these kind of dark spiritual beings. In other words, if a human goes through a dark negative experience and we don't have a lot of faith or light that we can hang on to while we have that experience, and we tend to sort of go down, it's almost as though the negative entities that do exist start to tune in and they start to kind of come close because they're preying on that very negative energy and they kind of feed on it and they perpetuate it in yourself. And so there are people who have these dreams, and in fact they're kind of rather real experiences where they'll wake with the paralysis and they do feel as though there's some kind of an incubus or some kind of a spirit, negative dark spirit, that's kind of feeding on them.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's wild how many people I know who are just rational professionals that are going through this. And I'm like, okay.
And these entities will, and it sounds otherworldly, I know, some of us are scientists, but there's some reality to the energy suck that they will get. And it really brings the person down. And so, but the good side of it is that you were in your courage, and you summoned your courage and you kind of faced them straight on, or faced it straight on, and said, you know, you're not going to touch me because I have light in my life. I have God. I have this other part of me. And at that point, it was it just left because it can't compete.
No, it was so amazing and felt, yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. Whatever. I mean, I'm interested in every explanation, but it was so powerful to have them go away. And it really do, whatever it was feeding off my fear. Just the fear just made us stronger.
There's this kind of wonderful story. There's a program that used to be on television. I think it might still be on YouTube. It was called Ghostly Encounters. I think it was a Canadian production. And there's one scene where there's a guy who was kind of lost in his life, a good guy, but kind of really lost in his faith, kind of lost in his life. He was wearing a cross, had a chain and was wearing a cross, but had kind of lost his faith along the way. And he tells the story where he's actually sleeping at night and he has this experience where this very dark entity, like an incubus, actually comes over him. And he's completely paralyzed and completely terrified. And he thinks, well, am I having, is this my imagination? Is this just a bad dream? But it was very much sucking energy from him. And it was very much capitalizing on the fact that he was at his lowest ebb, had lost his faith. He kind of brings himself out of it. And he goes to the bathroom to splash some water on his face, comes back to bed, and he's wearing the chain, but the crucifix is actually on the bed. And at that point, he realizes, how could that have happened? This was actually solidly on my chain, something, and the experience was something like, I'm going to take this away from you. So it kind of gave him a wake-up call that while he was feeling that he was actually dreaming, in actual fact, something had been there because it had detached the crucifix from the chain without the chain ever coming off his neck. Does that make sense? So at that point, he was like, oh my God, this is really real. And I've had stories like that.
That's so wild. Yes. It felt very real. And even part of me is like, that wasn't real. That was just fear. That was real. But whatever it was, I had to treat it like it was real for it to go away. I had to look at it like this was the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people talk about, hauntings and bad spirits and encountering them. And you have to almost, I think The Conjuring, if anybody's followed some of those stories, you have to kind of look these things squarely in the face and kind of hold your faith and hold your courage. And eventually they realize they can't win your soul over, they can't get you. And so eventually they just dissipate because it's a losing proposition.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember that now because that was intense spiritually. And I just did a podcast interview recently and I was like, I'm not afraid of anything in the spiritual world now, but I am afraid of mean comments and on YouTube. So I'm going to try to I'm trying to put that into my life. Like, I wasn't afraid of that. I don't have to be afraid of anything. Yeah.
Do we have to write a question?
You can ask, yeah.
If you'd like to come up to the mic and ask the question, just so that we can make sure we hear you, or if you speak loudly.
That's law of attraction.
Yeah, okay. What like attracts like, love attracts like.
Movies and stories and talks about law of attraction.
I love that.
The thing is, with the law of attraction, I kind of understand it, but don't completely understand it. That feels very sort of self-directed and kind of centered or contained. Whereas, and so I understand that what you're believing you actually attract. But when you're actually attracting negative entities by just feeling low, that just kind of feels a little scary. That feels as though you're kind of, yeah, okay.
I like it because part of my life is working within many languages. So I think it's like another way of approaching my experience. But I had pain. Even when I thought I was okay and I was like, I'm happy, but I still had all this unhealed trauma, I would attract, angry people into my life. But yeah, so very interesting. Yes.
I'll speak loud. My question was about when you were in that state where you were seeing the light, the physical light of other people.
Yeah.
Did different people have different degrees of light? And did you get a sense of the way our actions impact other people's light? Was that part of the experience?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. So she wanted to know if the few days when I saw light coming out of everyone, if it was different for different people. Also, if I could see how actions affected people's light. So for those first couple of days, and I think it was because I'd been touched by this light. I think I was glowing with this light. I was seeing it in everyone, but it just was like amazing, amazing, beautiful, beautiful, everyone. But then once my experience kind of ended and I was trying to figure out, was it real? I did see some light around certain people more than other people. And that I remember one time I went home to Louisiana. I was visiting my adopted grandmother who's very spiritual. And like, I just basically was like, I think I made all that up. But like my grandmother, she had two people come visit her. It was actually a minister and his wife. They were coming to give her communion at her home because she was disabled. And they walked in and I saw just the light again, just going around them. And I was like, I just left the room crying. And my family was like, something's wrong with Rebecca. She's just been going through a lot. But I was just like, that light was real and I didn't make it up. I don't know why they had it. I just think they were just truly humble, loving people, just loving people. So I do think the more loving, the more you do work on your inner light, the more you share it. I can see, and now, so when I see the light in people, it's through their eyes. And I see, like we all have that light, we just come from that. And so, but it's like, we have layers. Like if I'm in a bad mood, like my light, I'm like, it's just, but I just look into the layers and the light is like free. I see it in all of us. So I do sometimes see the light around people. It's like, if you're really happy and joyful, it's brighter.
So what about auras?
Yeah, it's a little different. This light was a little different than an aura because I've seen auras. I actually started seeing auras in high school after my trauma. But it was just like colors that I would look at around the teachers while I was in school because they were against a white wall. And I'm just like, and it was, I think that was because I was disembodied. But it was a little different than this white light thing.
So can you explain the difference between the auras and then?
I don't know. Yeah, the auras, I don't see auras. I mostly see light in people. But I think I've seen colors around people that I think has to do with like their emotional state or how they're doing in the physical or their lives, but then we all have that deep light where we were born from, so that looks a little different.
And you said that some people's light, is it a white light?
Well, now that was during the beginning of my spiritual story. So now it's just through the eyes, and it's just kind of like freeing the layers. It's like, how deep is their trauma? Like I had this experience actually. Where I was basically right after my experience, I would hear all this guidance to help people. So I met someone in the town where I was living, and he had been a Marine and had just come back from war in Afghanistan. He'd actually been a sniper, and I didn't know this. I just heard really strongly I needed to invite him over. When I looked at him, it looked like he had knives coming out of his eyes, like very intense trauma. And it was just, and I was like, okay, come over. And I heard like I had to ask him what happened in the Middle East. And he sat on my back deck. I did not know him. He just cried and cried and cried. And like he was like, he told me everything that happened. And he said, I was going to kill myself tonight. Thank you so much. I feel like you got a demon out of me. That's what he said. But anyway, it was just like, that was like, God was just like with me. And then I was still like, I don't know what's real, but it's like when you want to be of service, like we can all be placed to help other people. You just don't know how much you're helping them if you listen to your guidance.
Yeah.
Should I come up or can I?
You can if you like.
Or we can repeat it.
Okay. Two questions.
Yeah.
First one, probably a shorter one, second one, in terms of maybe the answer that you would give. My first question is the life review and the alternate timeline. Was that in the form of dreams or something else? And then I can stop there.
Okay, so the question is seeing the alternate timeline and seeing the life review. Was that a dream? No, that was while I was awake. That was just like the spiritual thing that I was feeling. And was it in one moment, or was it over those 2 years you saw sort of different? Yeah, it was like basically these 2 years just happened, and like it would be like random things would happen. I'd be like, oh, okay. So it was like the timeline. The life review part happened the first summer, and then the timeline thing happened like the next summer. But yeah, it was just like these deep, deep feelings where my soul was becoming aware of something much bigger. So yeah, and it was while I was awake.
And as far as the life review is concerned, I think you mentioned that it was your sister.
Yes.
You felt how your sister felt based on something that you had done or said to her. And it had to do with the bachelorette party. Yes. You didn't think you had done anything wrong, but she took it very seriously.
It was
very
awful.
upset.
It was a terrible feeling. I was like, I'm never doing that again. Like, I just didn't even know it was affecting anyone in my life. Like, but we're all affecting everyone.
Right.
And I mean, Yeah. You don't want to be codependent, but we do need to be kind and like loving. So
Were you ever able to make amends with your sister?
Yes.
Did you actually verbalize anything?
Yes. I said, oh my gosh. But it was just like this deep, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe it was like, that's how she felt. And I did say sorry right then because we were on the phone and I just felt so ashamed, really. But I'm so glad I had that because now I kind of know. And we're best friends. I was visiting her this week. She lives here. That's why I get to be in person.
Yeah. Did you want to ask about the alternate timeline as well? Or has she answered your question?
What it felt like was like it almost felt like there was an angel at my back and they were just beaming and moving into my mind. Or because it was like, and I could see it was almost like I saw like this little sliver of reality grow, like from where I was facing. It's just but it did feel like it was almost beamed into me.
So you spoke specifically about a book that in that alternative timeline you published or had published, and it didn't work out the way you hoped it would.
Yeah.
And so it would have taken you along a journey that wasn't as rewarding as you hoped. So it was a way of reminding you to not go down that path. You felt that it sort of saved you some grief, saved you some time.
Yes. I think it was like, that was my whole life. Like if I did that, and it was honestly, here's what the book was. I was dating a very sweet Orthodox Jew at the time. And I was going to different types of synagogues, Reform, Conservative. And I was like, oh, I'll write about like trying all these things. Cause I know part of my purpose is to share my story, but it was like, if I did that, it wasn't going to go well. It wasn't the book I was supposed to do. I was supposed to talk about this, which I really thought happened to everyone. I was like, no one's talking about that. They're all seeing these lights and stuff. Like, even though I thought it was crazy, I was like, I'm sure this is probably happening to everyone. So yeah, other questions.
And the second question was, so you've done a ton of reflection and talked to people that you trust about sort of that experience ending, reflection in terms of like, I guess my question is, what is your conclusion right now as to why you had that experience and particularly why that ended, right?
Yeah.
What's God thinking? I'm just curious what your conclusion is, right?
Yeah. So he's asking why he thinks right now, why do I think that happened to me and why did it end after 2 years? And I think that's such a good question.
What ended after 2 years?
This spiritual experience, it was like, it's so interesting because the trauma period of my life was about 1.5 years, 2 years because I was assaulted. And then I was bullied very badly for about 1.5 years. Like people stole my things. They spread rumors about me. I hated my own name because of what they would say about it, to the point where like, this is part of my healing journey, is to heal under my own name. So it was like the same time period, kind of. It was very strange. About 1.5 years, 2 years. And then I don't know why it happened to me. I kind of think because I do love the idea that I was so traumatized, I was just keying into the rest of the spiritual world because I was so dephysicalized, really, even though I was here. That I do think, like, what if you devote your life to God? There is lights, there are angels, you just don't see them necessarily, but I was just seeing them. Or maybe I'm just supposed to teach about it because there's a great awakening happening. I mean, it does seem a little bit strange that I had a medicine man stepped out of my life the whole time this was happening. And I come from a really skeptical family, and my whole experience was like healing, but also accepting that spirituality was real, because I really, really resisted that for a long time. So I think that's...
And why did it end, I guess?
Why did it end?
Yeah.
I think it's just going forever. Yeah. I think it ended because I was supposed to figure out how it made sense and talk about it. And that's one of the things the shaman said the first time I saw him, because I saw him about 8 times, and he's one of the most psychic people I've ever met. I didn't believe anything he was telling me, but I remember him saying, oh, you don't like to have other people tell you things. You like to figure it out for yourself. He's like, when you're a teacher, you're going to be talking about you like to figure it out for yourself. You're going to be sharing about that. And I think for people who are maybe scientifically minded, maybe skeptical, I do work with a fair amount of people in religious deconstruction, but it's like, this is how I decided this was real. So I can sit down with any skeptic and say, so I think that's why it ended, because I had to figure it out. I had to swim. That was the whole point.
So that begs the question, who was Jonathan and what did he mean when you would meet him after you stopped swimming?
So I thought every week after I had that dream, because it was again so real, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm done swimming. Like a week later, I was like, I'm done swimming. I'm gonna meet this guy. He's so nice. And then I like wanted to meet him. I was like, okay, I'm not done swimming yet. Like the next week, I'm like, I'm done swimming. And then it was not. And I was like, maybe I made that up, but I would go on dating apps. I would like go out with people named Jonathan, hoping like he was blowing. It's true. I even got engaged to someone named Jonathan. I'm really sorry. Then I was having all these dreams that it wasn't the right one.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know why his name was Jonathan. That's just what he told me. And I don't know why in the dream, like there was no judgment. It was just love, 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 love just flowing into my heart. Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, when am I gonna meet you? What's your name? Like, and it was just so much love. And he was like, well, you meet me when you're done swimming. And I really didn't realize until a couple of years ago that he wasn't a real person, which is embarrassing. I got married to someone else, like, oh, well, I guess sorry, love to him. But I was like, and then I finally realized that he wasn't real. He's real on another dimension or whatever. Yes.
For you. One is just that what's the relationship in the suffering and the spiritual awakening? Because either for the NDEs or your case, it has been bundled with a kind of suffering.
Yeah.
The people hit the bottom in life.
Yeah.
And then the second question is just that the relationship or the balance between being a religious or a spiritual, because I've heard and experienced that people who are having an NDE or becoming a spiritual, they are less religious.
Yeah.
But you are still practicing your religion and you're kind of a spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
How do you blend or balance?
That's such a good question. So the first one, what was it? How
The
suffering. I do really relate to the near-death community because they had bodily death. I really had like a spiritual death. And I feel like I'm waiting for the studies to come out within psychology and psychiatry of trauma and spiritual awakening, which I really hope will happen because I think this is a great approach to trauma. Like how cool. Like we all go through things. And I think it does lead to spiritual awakening. It just hasn't been necessarily studied as much as near-death.
So is there any hope for those who haven't suffered to be spiritually awakened?
I think so. I think that's the point. I mean, it's kind of like, I think like we learn from NDEs if you don't die, and like hopefully you can learn from this, that you can just open your heart. You don't have to get to the point of the bottom and go through all the crying I went through. I just think I was more primed for it. Like I had really nothing else. But
do you think you would have been so receptive if you hadn't had that traumatic experience at the age of 13 that you were trying to kind of assimilate and live with and integrate? I mean, if you hadn't had that sort of really kind of deep, profound experience, I wonder if you'd have been so open to everything that happened to you. Right. Because you were really, that profound experience made you really search and try to find healing and find answers. Maybe if you hadn't had it, it wouldn't have been quite the way it was.
I think that's a great question, because I remember when the therapists were like, you're fine, I just like knew I wasn't, and I wanted to feel my heart. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to feel my heart. And it was almost like a migrating animal, like, okay, this is helping me get closer. This is helping me get closer. And then it was like, and then the ultimate, the heart was God or creator love, divine love. Like that was the ultimate. So it really is like, I do believe your heart center is the bridge between the physical and spiritual, and kind of, centering on it and trying to feel what's there can really help everyone have a spiritual awakening.
So maybe the pain is part of it. The pain is part of the game. Sorry, I mean to be
the growing pain.
Cliche about it, but maybe there is something to that.
Maybe. Indeed. I'm going to answer her other question about religion.
Yeah, it was religion and spiritual.
So basically, I moved to the woods and I started dating every religious guy. I dated a Mormon. I dated a Muslim. I had a best friend who was Baha'i, actually a poet, the poet laureate of Oregon. So anyway, I just was like, what does this mean? Where does religion fit into it? And that's why I had that dream. I prayed for that dream because I could never come up with the answer. But because I kept feeling like everyone was so beautiful. So I just think, I think there's many paths. I don't love saying that publicly because it can be so like people get so up in arms about it. But I do come from a family of multiple faiths that I deeply love. So I am more spiritual now. But I do love, like, I do think what happened to me was kind of what happened with dating, where I'll go into any house of worship and be like, oh, this is so great. This is so beautiful. I love it so much. And I'll just like love everything about it. So I still will go hang out, but it's the spiritual part is different than like, I think we try to get it across in the physical world, but it's so internal. It's a great question.
Can I just jump in for a second and we can pick back up again with the questions? But that just made me think about your dream of Jesus, with Jesus.
Yeah.
And how you wanted to go and kiss his feet.
I would never have thought that. Jesus growing like in a throne and kissing his feet, like that's not, I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like huge, like he was like as big as a building. But I wasn't raised Christian. Like, anyway. But the weird part is that my mom's side of the family were all these ministers and they have seen my story and they're like, I don't know why you have a website. Like this happens to us all the time. Like they're just like really spiritual people. But anyway.
But obviously he did not want you to be
He didn't want me to do that.
He doesn't want to be seen as a deity. He wants to be
equal.
He wants
equal love to everyone. And we all had our own hearts and our own thrones and we're all
He's like the Son of Man. The idea that he's like everybody. Everybody can be as enlightened.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, it was really profound and it was just a dream, but that imagery was nothing I could have come up with. Like for Jesus on the throne was nothing I was raised with.
Right. Really extraordinary. So somebody had a question here? No? Good. Mm-hmm. Okay, do you want to show you a couple of online questions?
Yeah, actually, Bob had an interesting comment about the download and the experiencer community with the humanity going off a cliff. Those who have honestly, I don't always say this part either, but when I had that download in the middle of the night where it was a weekend, it almost felt like it was coming in from the window. I was like, or what it was like beaming into my experience. I don't know. It was very strange, but maybe it wasn't. But that would make sense that you would relate that to UFO, UAP. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Okay.
What guidance do you ask for in your dreams?
Okay, so I've asked mostly, I always ask, I get guidance about if I should end a relationship or about spiritual, like I did recently, I prayed a few years ago for what spiritual teacher to study with when I was reconnecting to my experience. And I had a dream that night that I was in class with Suzanne Giesemann, which I woke up like a medium, like I don't know what that, but so I'll pray about like who to study with but I don't always get the dreams. It just seems to be if it's about my spiritual journey or my relationships. But I think I would pray for a lot of different things, but I think it's really worth doing. The strange thing about my psychic dreams was once I started talking more and not having it just private, it's like the psychic dreams kind of chilled. Mm-hmm. Like it used to be very, very, very active because I was so not sharing, but now I'm like actively connecting and actively doing this work. And so they're like, oh, we don't have to bother you in your dreams anymore because you're actually doing this.
Can you give us a couple of examples? You mentioned a car accident that you dreamt that you had a car accident and then you did. Can you give us other examples of some of your active dreams?
Yes. So, I mean, like I'll do two different kinds. One are things that are going to happen and one are things that my friends are doing. So I've had dreams where my friends come to me in my dreams and they tell me something and then it's something that's really happening. So like random things, like really just very random. But one time a year and a half ago, I dreamt that one of my dearest friends met his wife and it was so real. And I was like, I texted him that next day, like, you are going to meet your wife so soon. Like, and he hasn't, as far as I know, he still didn't meet her, but it was so real. And there's no time in the spiritual world. So we don't know. I was like, you just need to follow your heart because she's out there and your soul knows who she is. You don't even need to like ask me anything about her. But I had a dream about getting carbon monoxide poisoning that I got and survived. Wow. And I'll tell that story because I tell that sometimes because I actually survived carbon monoxide poisoning and I shouldn't have. This was when I was living in the woods. About 4 or 5, maybe a few days before it happened, I had this dream that I was staring at myself in the bathroom mirror and my lungs were bright red. And I was just in the bathroom mirror. My lungs were bright red. And then I had to move out of my cabin. And then a few nights later, it was a chilly night in April. I probably didn't need to turn my heater on, but it does beg the question about free will because I did turn my heater on and I slept. And then I had the alarm going off early because I was working at a school. And when the alarm went off, I felt like I got pushed out of my bed, like 2 hands like pushed me really hard. And I started running for no reason. I've never woken up running. I'm running. There's the bedroom, there's the living room where the heater was, and there's the bathroom where my dream had happened. And I woke up and I started running I turned off the heater and for no reason, turned it off and then got to the bathroom and then I just collapsed and I couldn't stand because I had no oxygen in my blood. I didn't know that. I kept trying to stand up and I kept falling. And I didn't know why. I have a scar on my chin from hitting the bathroom sink. And I just laid on the ground. I couldn't move. And then I finally, after like 10 or 15 minutes, I was able to crawl out the front door, make it to the little rural hospital where they took my blood oxygen level. And they said I was less than a minute from death by the time I made it. So, but that was the dream and that was what happened. And it's like, I mean, I've heard if it's not your time to go, there will be, I mean, I know I'm not the only one to have these miraculous occurrences if it's not your time. I don't think it means I'm special. It just wasn't my time, but I don't know why I dreamt it. I don't know why it happened. Maybe just to talk about it, which seems to be the theme. So yeah, that was one. Yeah.
How has this changed? I mean, it was like you said, it has a lot of similarities to near-death experiences, but you didn't die,
Yeah.
right? How has this changed how you feel about physical death? And
Yeah.
like the eternal nature of our spiritual selves.
I mean, I feel like I'm on a tour of duty and I can't wait for it to be over. Not because y'all are so nice, but I just know how beautiful that light was. And I'm like, okay, I can't wait to, it's just, anyway, but I do not fear death, but I am because my experience happened here. I think I'm so focused on bringing that light here and sharing it with everyone and all of us doing that. But I do think we come here to learn and to grow and that there's a lot more love and peace and total love. I got the littlest glimpse of so much love and it's life-changing. I think that's where we come from. So I want us to just all feel it here so we don't have to be so sad. The world is so intense right now. So anyway.
Quick question regarding your meditation that I think your stepdad taught you, the one that, you face all corners and then face east and then be something like at one with everything. And then you went for a jog and then the cows all looked at you and kind of almost followed you home.
Yeah. It's so wild. Yeah. They just followed, they were in the field and every time I took a few steps, they took a few steps. And when I stopped, they stopped. But, he had told me a bird would come close to me and this was all these cows. But, there's energy between beings, all of us.
So that's not anything that you do anymore.
I'm going to do it. I have kind of done it. So honoring the 4 directions is an indigenous practice. I'm not indigenous. I just had a stepdad who was very close to, and he showed me some things because he was tuned into my experience. Yeah, you honor each of the directions has a different meaning, and east is where the sun rises. It's new birth, new life. And he just showed me very briefly in the yard. He was basically giving me teachings non-verbally. He's like, oh, the east is this. Then you turn south and west and the north, and it's each has a meaning, and you just honor it. And then you sit facing the east after you walk, you bow to each direction. Because it does such a different way of approaching spirituality because it's earth-based and you're reorienting yourself as a physical being on the plane. So, yeah. And then you just close your eyes and let the external part of your body, you just start to, basically your aura, you would just let it blend. So I would recommend trying it, experimenting, because I don't know, I'd like to.
And the animals presumably pick up on that.
I guess they must.
And you become safe for them.
I guess
suppose. So. And that's why they feel they can get closer to you.
Yeah.
It's just one barrier that goes.
It's a barrier because we're not that human. Yeah, I guess you're right. You just become part of the world.
Okay. Tell us about the tree.
Okay. I just saw this green aura flash around a tree. It's here's the tree, and this green light just came out like that from it. Just bright green, beautiful light. And then the tree then I heard this huge crack right after I saw it.
So almost as though the tree had a soul and the soul was leaving as it was about to have its own bodily death or something.
Yeah.
As that life force.
I guess so. It was their life force. And, the night before, this neighbor had been burning the tree and I'd been worried about the tree. So my friend said, oh, you showed the tree some care. And it was basically showing me its life force before it died. But it did a lot of these would come in when I was receptive and calm. And then as soon as my rational mind thought about it, I was freaking out. So I was just calmly looking out at the ground, the earth, and just relaxed. And then I saw it because I was so relaxed. And then as soon as I saw it, oh my gosh, what's happening? What's happening? So, if you relax, you can.
So I also want to ask you about the experience that you had just at the very end with the medium just recently in November of this year. And so the perpetrator, one of the 4 people, had actually passed, and through a medium. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? That perpetrator came through. He died of some kind of
heroin overdose.
A heroin overdose. How long ago?
2015. And I have, in this world, I have like a bunch of medium friends, and they practice, we do things. So for 10 years, like he never came through. So maybe I was ready. But
so this is somebody who did you great physical and emotional harm when you were very young, who died 10 years before, and then haphazardly almost through this medium experience, from the other side, he comes through and basically apologizes for what he did to you. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah. So he, a lot of times, I don't think he felt very welcome in the reading. I've done this kind of work. So like I had a friend from high school who came through because he was a young man and we were close in high school, and he was coming through to say hi. And like, as he came in, this other young man came through that, it's almost like he rode the tails of this other person that I would recognize and be excited about. And then she's like, oh, but I'm sensing there's somebody here who's very sorry. Oh my gosh, it's one of your perpetrators, because Julie knows my story. And she just started crying, and she just kept saying, sorry is not enough. He's saying, sorry is not enough. Sorry is not enough. He is so ashamed. He's so ashamed. And he taught, it really does help. They say when you get to the other side, you have a mind meld with people who've hurt you or with everyone in your family, and you see why they did everything. And I've heard that understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. So like I was able to really understand in a way where he was coming from. Like he came from a really broken family. He also said he found a group of friends because he felt so alone. He found this group of boys that he felt very connected with. And it was all just very profound. He felt like he'd seen the women in his family become objectified or dehumanized and these different things. And I was like, wow, like, it doesn't make it okay, but it was like, and him saying sorry really made a difference, because none of them ever said sorry. None of them ever had any justice. Like, I never had justice.
So you didn't know these things about his background?
I didn't even, all I knew was his name, and I never knew anything else.
Okay. So when he's coming through this medium, he's not only apologizing, but he's also explaining, you're becoming cognizant of his background, his culture, his thinking of women. Wow.
No, yeah.
If all that information is coming to you, that kind of explains where this doesn't make it right, but explains where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And of course, the apology must have made a huge difference.
Yeah, and he said it multiple, like at least 12 times. I'm so sorry. Sorry, it's not enough. Sorry, it's not enough. Sorry, I'd be so ashamed. So I was like,
right. So presumably, he passed some time ago. He would have had his life review, if we're to follow the ideas of the near-death experiences, etc. Would have had that life review where it was played back to him exactly how he and his friends were making you feel at that time.
Yeah.
So that made him very sensitive to exactly what he had done.
And not just that time, like how many years of healing I had to do after.
Yes.
And it was like a very big thing that I think I was like, they never thought about this again. They don't care. They don't know me. They don't. And it was like, wow, he's on the other side. Like he's seen all of this. So that was pretty cool.
And what it was about that particular experience, just recently with the medium that allowed him to come through when he'd passed 10 years before and you'd had other medium readings. Well, any idea why at that particular time?
I think I had been curious. I found out he died last summer. So I found out he died a year ago. He died 10 years ago. But I was like, maybe I should connect to him. Like, I wonder if there would be anything, because I do know our spirits are eternal. But I never really did, because I was like, this is too intense. I'm not going to do that. But so I had been wondering about it. So maybe that made a door open. I don't know. He didn't come through with other people, but I think I had a reading with Suzanne Giesman, who's one of the best mediums in the world, and he didn't come through. But other family members did. But I think Julie and I were close, and I had a very safe relationship with her. So it felt very good.
Do you think if he had apologized while he was still living and explained a little bit more about his upbringing and his view of women and his experiences, Do you think that the apology would have had as much resonance as it did coming from him from the other side?
Well, I just don't think he would have, because he was, I mean, these people were pretty bad, like not bad people. I don't believe that, but I think they were living out these other lives, like where they're, he was a heroin addict. I don't think he ever saw the repercussions or really thought about it while he was
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So,
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think it does matter. So Angie's might do research about this, which I think is very fascinating.
So,
I think it was very healing.
For those of you who know, a few of us are trying to work on a project where we bring somebody who, so you've got an adult who was traumatized as a child. And in the normal situation, the living person might go to a therapist and try to deal with that trauma. And it would be between the therapist and the adult child trying to come to terms with what happened and try to heal. What we're trying to do is we're trying to extend it. If the if the traumatizing party is deceased, we're trying to bring the traumatized party into the therapeutic setting through a medium. So you have the adult child, you have a therapist in the 3D world, the here and now. You bring in a validated medium, and the medium, with the cooperation of the adult child, asks the deceased loved one to come through, so that there's a bigger conversation going on. And the idea is, okay, what would happen then? Because there are several people, and you're now one of them, who have been traumatized by people who are now dead, and the people from the other side have come through and apologized, explained, and it's made a tremendous difference to the person who's still living here and helping them tremendously heal. So we're trying to sort of do a study to see if we can quantify that in some way, to see the before and after effects. So it's timely.
Timely,
Isn't
it? Like just happened a few weeks ago.
Just happened to have this experience.
And then she's like, I'm doing a research project. Like, what? That just happened.
Yeah.
So it's that's why I added the slide while it's here.
So again, if we're to believe that nothing is a coincidence, but everything is a synchronicity, maybe this is one of them that we need to do this study. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that.
And I also just think a good takeaway of my story is I know we've all had traumas, and you're not defined by your trauma. You're really defined by your healing and what you do with it. And I really believe that we can all fully heal. We can all have beautiful spiritual experiences. And it's like, we're not broken. Like you're not broken, and you can heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you do group readings, or do you do sessions? Or
I do sessions.
You pick up on people's energy in a group. I'm just taking a quick look at the rest of our questions.
There's some great comments. Thanks, Mary, for your beautiful insights. Alan as well.
Have you looked at these?
Yeah, they're very beautiful. I really love everything y'all have written. I just haven't responded because we've been chatting. But Alan says it's he likes the interfaith and ecumenical way is more authentic. I wish you could tell that to everyone on YouTube, but I do agree with you. Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
So I don't know if in the remaining time that we have about 20 minutes left or so. We can run as long as you like. Whether, there's anything here, do you feel you have a message? Because, a lot of your prophetic dreams were about messages for humanity.
Yeah.
This idea that humanity is at a crosswalk, I think, or crossroads, perhaps. And,
crosswalk.
We can go this way or we can go that way. Calamities are going to happen. But if we stick together and help each other through it, it's going to make a big difference. So I just wondered, because you do a lot of this work anyway, privately, correct? You help people work with getting in touch with their soul and sort of trying to heal. Is that correct? So I didn't know if there was anything that you might be picking up.
Yes, I can.
Not to put you on the spot.
Do y'all want me? I can tune in. I'll just have to take a second.
Yeah, sure. What would you like?
Yeah, I do tune into guidance, higher guidance.
Okay.
What I'm really hearing for this group, Danielle, is that each one of you has this ability to awaken spiritually, and it would be in a way that's perfect for you. God, the divine, really sees your heart, and to really try to open your heart in a really vulnerable way to have your full human self be part of your life right now. There's nothing you have to be ashamed of. There's nothing you could have done that would make God stop loving you. And my story is a testament to that, but every one of you has stories like this that's in your own experience. And I mean, this is what comes through. I do these weekly messages, but it really does come through so much. And I saw it, like, everyone is so deeply seen and so deeply loved at like a cellular level. And it's kind of this trick we've experienced in the physical. They made us not know that. And like us not knowing that has created the world that we've created. But there's like, it just takes an instant to reconnect. It just takes a moment and a willingness. And I'm hearing no one is lost forever. That's impossible. As much as you can, come back to your heart in an authentic way, like in your own experience, the way you would do that for you. No, there's someone joining. Let's see. I'm hearing like, ask your questions. Like when you tune in, like this, just, you don't even have to do you can just ask it out loud. Like ask your questions about life, ask your questions about your own life, like, or about the world. I'm hearing like no question goes unanswered. It might just be answered in ways that you might not expect. So your life might answer the question, or you might have someone tell you something, or a book might answer the question, but like they don't want us to just like live in darkness and disconnection. And they're saying, I can tell these are like the angels. I felt these angels around me during my experience, and that's just what I tune into. I know it looks schizophrenic. I know from my family, but they're like, every time I don't want to do this, because I'm like, I get scared to do all like this talking, but they just show me how disconnected and unloved people feel. And they just take me out of my house and they just show me all these people that they think they're not loved. They think they're disconnected. And like, I have to keep sharing because so everyone can really know that their heart is sacred and that they are so loved and so cared for. And it's not in an outside way. It's like internal, because that's like our hearts this is where we come from. And they're like, every structure that you have in your life that keeps you from this knowledge, you have to take it down. Like you have to bring it down to the studs almost, or deconstruct like whatever's blocking you from experiencing this love that is in your heart. They're like, it's so simple, and that's why it seems so complicated. And okay, so they're giving a message for you because you're right next to me. But you've just done such a great job sharing this love and this knowledge, and how much it really helps the community for you to host these gatherings and share these stories, and to not stop, even if it's hard. So yeah, keep going. Yeah, thank you. Hearing that. That's great.
All right, we'll carry on for a bit longer.
Like just, yeah, so it's just like, it's very valuable.
Yeah.
And they're saying like no one can really see on this earth the repercussions of all of our actions and all of the kind things that we do for one another. They're saying don't worry about the times when you might have made mistakes or let people down. Like your kindness and your love really matters most of all. And I heard this from a client, and I've repeated it, and they're telling me to repeat it now. Like what's true about you is the love within you. So like that is what really matters, is the love that's within you. That's how they see us. That's how the divine sees us all the time. We just need to see ourselves that way. Yeah. And again, I'm just hearing, don't be afraid to ask questions. So,
do you differentiate between guides and angels? Do you know your guides as well as your angels, or is it mostly your angels that are?
I mean, I think it's all the same for me. It's kind of like, when I tell my story now, I've learned about there's people that think talking to guides and angels is like really wrong, but I didn't know that. But when I tell my story, I'm like, I've had to explain, like I devoted my life to God, and then I felt this light around me, and they never were like, we are angels or we are guides. It's just like these light beings right next to me that were guiding me and loving me. So that's what I talk to. Mm-hmm. It just feels like the frequency of my experience. But angels have never been in the physical, and guides have lived in the physical world and evolved so much that they come back to help. So I do think angels are more like a very peaceful frequency. I think that's what I do talk to, because they're just like, every time I tune into them, all they show me is like, they love us so much. Don't ever be sad. Everything's beautiful. You're so amazing. And that's the guides are more like, I'm writing a book and I need help writing a book, or like, it's like more like human tasks.
So. I see. Yeah. Okay. What about your experience of past lives? I mean, you had an alternate timeline experience, but have you ever been privy to maybe a past life that you might have had?
Yes. And I know I've worked with Baha'is that I know that past lives is not part of the Baha'i like belief system. Is that true? Is that true? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't think we.
We don't know. But okay, I'm going to tell you my experience with Baha'is because like I don't just like believe anything. Like, that's the thing is like, what do I believe? I know what I've experienced. So I have had one night I like laid down after my spiritual experience and I was like kind of like relaxing and meditating or like kind of getting ready for sleep. And when I laid down, I just felt like 200 lives flash in front of my eyes back over and over, like what they each were, what each one was, like what I looked like. It was almost like a deck of cards back and forth. And I don't know. It just basically showed me like our souls have so many iterations. I do believe, yeah. So, and I have done some regressions. Those were interesting. I have a friend, Dick Dingus, the minister. He really wants me to do a between life regression to see why this happened to me and like what was this my soul playing.
Yeah. Okay. What about extraterrestrials? What is your sense about life on other planets? And
I mean, I want to know what y'all think. I definitely believe in that. I mean, I've gotten one thing I skipped a slide, but when I was 21, I was on the subway and I really don't feel like I've had that many spiritual experiences when I keep telling you all these crazy things. But I was on the subway or I was on the metro in DC. I was interning at the Senate. I was never a dumb person. I was interning at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And I was like not very happy. I hadn't done that much healing yet. I was pretty depressed, but I was like doing the surface thing. And someone walks up to me on the metro and it was my birthday. It was my 21st birthday. And I don't know this person at all. And he says, "Happy birthday, Rebecca." And I was like, yeah, I don't think, was I the crazy person on the metro? And I just said, "Oh my gosh, like, how do you know my name? How do you know it's my birthday?" He's like, "I come from out there. Things are going to get easier soon." And I was like, okay, like I just like ignored him. But and then he got off. Like it was just like I always remember that. And I've met other people who've had like weird encounters on the metro. Like I don't know if that was an angel or if that was like an alien. I just think the world is much bigger than we know. I don't have all the answers, but I definitely believe people who've had encounters and experiences and seen them in their NDEs. So
one thing I pay attention. So when you were just reading or tuning up,
Yeah.
you also staring or looking
yeah.
aside.
Yeah.
And also I pay attention while you were having your presentation.
Yeah.
I was trying to organize my question to ask you.
Yeah.
You suddenly turn back. I haven't spoken out loud, but you turn back and look at me. So I just want to know that do you see something that you stare or is just your way of focusing?
I think it's the way that I focus. I mean, maybe I can sense your energy in that moment, but I do think when I'm doing my messages, I always look off to the side because it's almost like I know to brainwaves things like you're supposed to go into alpha state to receive. And so I'm basically whatever I need to do to like sense it. And it's like I can't look, well, I can kind of look at people, but it's like I have to tune into this. But I think
direction for you, right?
yeah.
So you go to that direction of the frequency.
But I do think this is like a human ability that we're all developing now. Like I think this is going to be so normal. Like no one will need to book a session with me because they'll already know what they
The telepathy is proven.
Yes, yeah.
so what does your work consist of pretty much when you work with a client? Can you give us some examples of what a client might bring to you and then how you can help them?
Yes. So basically when I start a session, so I'm a speech pathologist. That's what I was in grad school part-time, 2.5 days a week. I work in a public school. And then Monday and Friday, I do what I call sacred soul sessions. And I basically put on myself and the person I'm sitting with in the state of my spiritual experience. I breathe through light into both of us. We do this visualization and I can see it changing people. So I'm like breathing light through everybody. And then you breathe, and then we open our hearts with light. And then I invite in your team, your angels and guides, creator, God, to be with us. And then I feel them over my right shoulder. And it's like they're talking in my ear. And I just start saying things that they are saying. And I am such a skeptic. Like I still am a skeptic, but every time I do a session, like I get stuff that I would never know. And I just have to stay really calm and I have to stay really open. I have to stay tuned into that frequency. I used to connect my energy with the sitter's energy. And I read for a few, no shade on depression, but as soon as if I connected my heart to the sitter's heart and they were really joyful, it was like clear. But if I connected my heart to the sitter's heart and they were really depressed, it was like I was sailing into a storm and I couldn't see anything. And suddenly I'm like not able to read anything at all. And that's not bad. It's just like, that's the energy. It's like these angels, like this frequency is so highly refined. Like I don't hear it all the time because I'm not in my spiritual experience anymore. I'm a regular mom and I have a job. So we have to get there and keep it. Yeah.
Kind of like said something that actually is a background for the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So any thoughts or guidance on coping with some of those, like it's not a depression per se, but some of the aspects of humanity that it's darker and almost impossible to not interact with, how to survive, how to thrive, how to rise,
that's such a good
your
question.
vibrations when you are kind of forced to be in that place.
Are you working around people like that right now?
I'm a federal employee.
Oh, wow. I would definitely do the light bubble. So I have I actually teach a class on this, but it's like one thing I would do is like imagine you're in a column of beautiful white light or white golden light, and then I would take it to your heart and then just have the bubble, and it really makes a difference. But it is really hard when you're every day interacting with that. But if you start your day in a place of spiritual connection and just intend to hold it, it can't touch you quite as much, but that's really, really hard. I have heard a lot of people in the spiritual community talking about a timeline split. So maybe where people who are living in love will start to live in a different reality, and people who are not I don't know if that's true, but I kind of like that idea. So maybe your timeline will just split away. No, but I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. It's I mean, I work in a school. I don't know. I work in a school and it's not perfect. Like I've had to go through regular life stuff, and but the government, it can be hard.
Thank you.
You're a soldier. You can do it. Thanks for spreading the light.
Imagine you have to keep recentering yourself every day just to keep
every hour.
Well, sometimes.
And it's like people are living in sleep mode. They're not awakened to this. It's like they don't even know like what it could be like, or what probably even they're not even seeing you. But I did have one more weird spiritual thing that happened during my STE, where I was working in a really tough internship for my speech, and it was with a supervisor who just yelled at me all the time. And I would go into work and I would just cry, and she was yell. But at night I was dreaming that I was standing behind her desk, like sending light into her and like healing her every night. And it was like, I think sometimes when you're healing people or they're triggered, they just lash out, and that was kind of wild.
So it never changed? She never...
Eventually, finally, they stopped that internship because she was like that with other people too. But it was, all attack is a cry for help is what I've heard.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I don't think I'm wiser than anyone. I really would love to hear y'all talk too, but this is just my experience. Yeah. Any other questions or anything?
Well, what's next for you, would you say?
I keep telling my story. I'm going on bigger and bigger podcasts, which makes me nervous.
Good. Great speaker.
Thanks.
Great story. Just relax and share. Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm just speaking at more conferences and telling this story that it's a very personal story. I mean, it's very, very personal, but it's really just because it awakens, like we can all awaken this way. So that's what's next. And maybe eventually doing this work full time, writing my experience memoir, not my whole life memoir, but like your near death or spiritual experience memoir.
And then your book, which is basically daily angel messages.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I was starting to post these messages after I went to IONS for the first time in 2023 and told my story. I started posting messages. I was like, I guess I should do something. So I tuned in and I would post these messages, and then people said they wanted them in a book format. So I eventually, after I had 365, I made a book. So you can buy it.
It's a great book for him.
I should have brought some. I just didn't think about it, but you can find it online. And my website, Rebecca Kastl, has to all of this stuff.
Are you finding that people are more and more open to your experience?
Mm-hmm.
So you feel more comfortable sharing, or are there still pockets where you wouldn't ever really venture in? And How did your family react? How's your family
Well, it's
react?
so funny because my mom is like very, very devout Catholic now, like, and very, so anyway, she and my dad is still very scientific and skeptical, and they both like bought my book. They're both so proud. It's like, it can be good. Like, they're really proud of me. And so, yeah, my sister came to IANS when I first spoke, and so it's, I don't try to talk about it too much, but I do think more people are open to this. I don't think I would have told it like this 15 years ago. But now there's so much out there.
And what about your own healing journey from the trauma you had when you were pretty young? Is there anything there that you really feel that your journey has helped you so you could help others?
Yeah, I mean, it really just in my sessions. I'm not a psychologist, and I do tell people sometimes, just please go find a therapist. But I do believe everyone can heal, and I just hold that light space for them. And I really thought when I said I wanted to heal all the way at 23, I thought I was done at 25, and I hadn't even had my spiritual experience. And I've still like that mediumship session, even more healing. So it's just like constant.
Yeah. Is there any particular modality that has provided more healing for you?
It's so funny because like I talked about this recently. Like the energy healing was really great. Like I was healing so much, but once I had this spiritual experience, that was it. Like the love of the creator divine, like was just so deep that that was really the most healing thing of all.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We have just a couple more minutes left. Anybody have any final questions, comments?
Yeah.
Comments.
Yes.
In a former life, I was actually a trauma therapist.
Oh, wow.
A psychologist that worked mostly at the VA, but also inpatient. Anyway, and this was sort of early 2000s. There wasn't really a lot on trauma then.
Yeah.
The PTSD and the VA, that was kind of the main. But there was so much emphasis on getting rid of it, getting rid of the symptoms, going back to how you were.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew it changed, PTSD changes you, changes your body. And the whole somatic aspect, Bessel van der Kolk in Massachusetts, starting the whole somatic work in EMDR. Yeah. But your approach, your discussion, more than anything else I've ever heard, is really, I just feel like it's like a cracking open of, trauma can have that aspect where it's awful, but it also like there's a cracking open to other experience that isn't as focused on. Some of the later healing, but it's such a negative experience. But if we can think about it as, you're also at the same time, you're cracking open, and then the healing kind of like you're not the same as before, you're bigger, you're larger.
That's beautiful.
So I don't know, the feeling that sense of like that there is an aspect to it that is, growth inducing.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. I love that. Thanks. Yeah, I want everyone to feel that.
The wound is where the light enters. Right?
Yeah, it's so true. But it's like anyone who's gone through trauma, I did not see this coming. Like I just hated my life. I hated myself, and I was suicidal. But if somebody could just put it, have said, hey, it's gonna get better. I guess that guy on the metro did, but yeah. Thanks, y'all. It's such an honor. Yeah. Angie, thank you. Y'all are amazing. Y'all are troopers. That was a long talk. I love y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for everybody joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.